Time. Welcome everybody to the 61st annual Dowsers Convention. Today we're going to be our speaker for this next hour is Chris Goin. She has been a certified natural therapist for over 20 years. She has written a couple books, including Dowsing to Heal the Body, Home, and Earth, which includes many experiments that she used to prove herself that this was real. Her website is chrisgointherapies.com. If you go to her website, she does all kinds of great stuff. She does Reiki, emotion code, quantum touch. And she's a shamanic healer. She does reconnective healing, energy balancing. She's a master dowser and for accessing consciousness and whatever. So she's got a video to start with. And before we do that, we'll have her introduce her, what we got. All right.
All right, great. So what I did is I doused some lines on my property that I had at that time and found that there were some detrimental lines. I think the one that I found there was a Hartmann line, which isn't always detrimental, but when they get overexcited, then they become, well, you'll see that I used applied kinesiology, and when the person was standing on that line, that person went weak. Their physical body went weak. And so when we cured that line, they could stand on it and their physical body remained strong. So you can see how that has huge ramifications. And this is an easy thing to learn. Anyone can do it. There's nothing special about me or how I did it. So yeah, I'm hoping that everyone will learn how to do it and people will not be able to disbelieve all of the things that we do with dowsing, pendulums and rods and yeah, and then I'll be here for after questions afterwards.
Awesome. Very good. So I'll get the video started right now. Okay. Share my screen. And sharing my sound. Okay.
Hi, my name is Chris Goin-Anderson. I am the author of 2 books. Dear Bonnie, My Life at Lake of the Ozarks.
You need to make the sound, click the sound on your share screen.
I did that already.
And the other book is Dowsing to Heal, Body, Home, Business, and Earth. I am certified in natural therapies, which means that it's my job to help people avoid drugs and surgeries. Okay. So today we're going to talk about geopathic stress lines.
Can you hear it?
There are at least 20 different geopathic stress lines.
Very faint.
Such as the Curry lines. So the Curry lines typically run northwest to southeast, and they circumnavigate the Earth every few feet. They're always there. Hartmann lines go north-south, and again, they circumnavigate the Earth. They're always there. The problem comes when a trauma happens on that line, or also when a power station is built on that line. Then the lines become overexcited and can carry chaos, disease, a detrimental energy for your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body. I have seen these lines. Typically, when you see them, it's out the corner of your eye rather than through the pupil, because when something goes in through the pupil, then it gets processed by the brain, and the brain decides whether or not it's really there or whether or not you can handle seeing it. But anyway, so when I have seen them, it's out the corner of my eye or out the periphery. The Hartmann lines are green, Curry lines are red. There's also pole lines. Pole lines are water lines that, again, carry detrimental energy such as cancer, lung cancer in specific for pole lines. There's also black lines and brown lines where Curry lines and Hartmann lines are very straight, very predictable. Brown lines and black lines are more chaotic. They don't have a definite pathway. There's also ley lines. Ley lines are a pathway created by animals or people, and they have a beginning and an end. but like I said, there is at least 20 different geopathic lines that can become stressed and chaotic and bring that chaos into your physical body and emotional and mental body. So I found a curry line on my property, and I'm going to show you using applied kinesiology how when you're standing on an overexcited line, the body goes weak. So again, when I look for a line, I use the L rods, and I ask the L rods to show me what they want to show me. Then once I find the line, I ask that in order to find out what kind of a line it is, and I don't know that that's really important, that's just what I do. So then I would ask, well, okay, so I know where the line is that they brought my attention to. So then I ask for a Hartmann line, and the rods will either open if that's a Hartmann line or not react at all. Then I'll ask if it's a pole line or then Curry line. So in this way, I can find out exactly what the line is. So today I found a Curry line on my property that we are going to treat, and I will show you what it does to the body using applied kinesiology, and we'll see if we're able to cure the line. So join me outside. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate how I find a line. Now, normally I would do this with 2 rods, and then when I find the line, they open. Now, for some people, they close, but I broke my wrist, and so the left hand isn't working. And so I'm only going to do it with 1 rod, but it still works. So when I walk around the perimeter, I ask the rods to show me what they want to show me. And when I come to this line here, you can see they open up. I'm holding my hand next to my chest to keep as straight as I possibly can and as free as I possibly can. So then I ask to show me a Hartmann line. Show me a Hartmann line. Show me a Hartmann line. And the rods don't go anywhere. And show me a pole line, pole line, pole line. And then I'll say, show me a Curry line. And they open up. Now I'll show you what happens as a result of having an overexcited Curry line going through your body. So this is my husband, Jim. And with him off of the line, with both of us off of the line, I'm going to test his strength. So to test your strength, you need to make a full circle. So this hand is touching him and this hand is touching him. And when you're pressing on them, you're right at the bend of the wrist. So if you go too far over, you're always going to get a no. If you go too far backwards, you're always going to get a yes. So you're right at the wrist. Okay, so we're going to test his strength. And I can't budge him. So now we're going to have him stand on the line and test your strength. Okay, so now we have to fix it. There are many options. I forgot the omega inside and 2 magnets. So one option is to simply stand on the line and bless it. And when do you bless it? I simply drop my thoughts down into my heart, connect with spirit, and you can pray to whoever it is you pray to, and you just ask for all the traumas that happened on the line to be healed. Now, I've already done that on this line, and it didn't work, so we're going to try something else. So another possibility is to just place a straight copper rod on each end, where it enters and where it exits. Or instead of a copper rod, I like these omegas. It's a cheap copper wire that's been formed into the omega. I have 2 different sizes here. So we're going to try that. Okay, so now if Jim stands on the line. All right, stand on the line, and we'll see if we have cured the line. And hold your arm out strong. And that worked. We can stop there. Now, so there may be times where you don't want to use the copper rod or the omega. Now here's an example of the omega. There we go. So you can use any size wire that will hold its shape. Some people will hang this over their electrical meter in order to not lose so much electricity. But there may be times when you don't want to use those. Then magnets work. A magnet might be more discreet. Sometimes this stuff is very hard to explain to people. So a magnet screwed to your fence within the bottom 24 inches would be a lot more discreet, a lot more invisible, and you won't have so much explaining to do.
Realize I was.
Okay, so Jim is here to help me demonstrate how to figure out which is the north side and which is the south side. So first I'm going to put this side to his body and hold out strong. And then I'm going to flip it and hold out strong. Okay, so that means that this is the north side. He's strong with the south side facing his body and weak with the north side facing your body. So the same is true with your property or whatever it is you're treating. You want the south side facing in to protect the area that's in whatever you're treating. So geopathic lines aren't the only place that will hold on to traumas. Anything can hold on to a trauma. I was once asked to check out a guest bedroom, and the rods directed me to a dresser, a beautiful wooden dresser. And I had the homeowner and I meditate on what could have caused that. And we both came up with the same scenario where a young girl had ran to the tree for protection, but was indeed caught and murdered. So we blessed everyone involved and the tree. And afterwards, her guests started getting a much better night's sleep. I was also asked to go to a museum, and the rods directed me to a cabinet filled with medical tools. And then I needed to know what shelf the item in question was on. And so to do that, for me to ask a yes/no question, I always have to be in motion. I always have to take a step forward. I know that's not true with everyone, but it is with me. So for me to find out which shelf, I would simply ask for a shelf, and the rods would open for a yes and close for a no. So once I found the shelf, then I ask, okay, you can have the rods point to the item or first, second, third, fourth item on the shelf. So the item that they pointed to at that time was forceps. So that felt really heavy. Lots of trauma possibilities there. And so we blessed the forceps and all of the babies that it was used on and all of the mothers. And that went away. Now the same technique, the applied kinesiology that I showed you, where I tested Jim's strength and he was strong. And then he stood on the overexcited curry line that I had, and he went weak. Well, that same technique also works on objects. Test a person's strength and make sure you're doing the proper hold. You have to make a full circle. Both hands have to be touching the body. If both hands aren't touching the body, then your question may be answering on your behalf or your recipient's behalf. And hand placement is very important. You want to press
right at where the wrist bends. And don't slam it hard. You want to approach it gently. And it does take a little bit of practice, and maybe even it takes a little bit of confidence. But don't give up. It's a very valuable tool. Another time, I was asked to check out a home, and the rods led me to a Bible. Bibles are a place where lots of trauma can be stored and stuck. Because, especially if it's an old Bible, because long ago, people used a Bible to scare the devil out of you. And it was always a very traumatic thing. And as a result, we have many Bibles in people's homes holding lots of trauma. So you can see how this technique can be very valuable. Applied kinesiology can be used to prove dowsing. It can be used to show you what kinds of foods are good for you and what kinds of food are bad for you. And gosh, I think the sky is the limit as what you can do with applied kinesiology. It's a very valuable tool. And so I hope you'll use this tool to get your house cleaned and your land cleaned as well. Blessings. So a couple of things I just want to reinforce. The dresser that I told you about was a brand new dresser. Now, if it had been an antique, I would have understood it more easily. There's lots of trauma stuck in antiques because there are so many different opportunities for that antique to be in a bad situation. But that dresser was brand new. So that's why I asked the owner to join me in a meditation, and we both did a silent meditation and came up with the same scenario. So that was really interesting for me. Also, using applied kinesiology, when this owner touched that dresser, her body went weak. After we blessed the dresser, she could touch it and remain strong. So that's true with any object that would hold a trauma. If you hold it next to you, you're going to go weak. When you bless it, then you will retain your strength. So you can see how that's just such a valuable tool. There is another way to cure an overexcited geopathic line, and that is using crystals. I can't do a presentation without talking about crystals. So many people would use this crystal point. Now, my experience is that this little crystal point works much better than this big piece of jasper. But please do your own experiments. And you would put it on the beginning and the end of the line, or where it enters your property and where it leaves your property. Ley lines, the dowsing rods. So like I said, I broke my wrist, so only my right hand works. But using two rods will often show you a direction. So a ley line often goes one specific direction. And I guess that makes sense. An animal uses this path to go to the water and a different path to go out of the water. I think there's lots of reasons, but yeah, crystals. Also geodes, if you're lucky enough to have one. A very fascinating thing about geodes, and this is a way to get it even more powerful. It has a direction that it wants to go. So if I hold the pendulum in front of the geode, this direction, the pendulum swings perpendicular to the crystal. So the opposite of perpendicular is parallel. And then going this direction, it stops. So the opposite of stopping is a full circle. Let's see if I can let you see that. There we go. So my theory is that it's the same as the vortices in Sedona. One direction will balance feminine energies, one direction will balance masculine energies, but the full circle balances both. So again, it doesn't take anything really large. There's also geodes with 3 different sections. And it's so surprising to learn that each section might want to face a different direction. So yeah, have fun with it. And I hope to hear about all of your experiments and successes.
I hope you found that interesting.
Yeah.
It was sure fun to do. It's always surprising to me what you can do with a pendulum and rods. And to me, applied kinesiology is simply dowsing with the body.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Do you have anything more to say, or do you want to go right into questions and answers?
Yeah, if there are any questions, I really don't know what else to add until I have questions.
Okay. All right. So Susan had a question regarding how can you tell which is the north side of a magnet and what's the south side of a magnet?
Okay, a simple way is, again, to use applied kinesiology. You would place the magnet just above the other person's ear, and that person is going to be strong if the south side is facing the body, and that person is going to be weak if the north side is facing the body. So applied kinesiology is extremely valuable. It'll tell you what's north and what's south. It'll tell you what foods you can eat. It'll tell you what thoughts are making you strong or what thoughts are making you weak. For me, I recently discovered a sensitivity to air quality. So applied kinesiology will also tell me if the air in this particular area is good for me.
Okay. How long do you leave it there?
Oh, it just takes seconds, less than seconds. It happens instantly. Just like when Jim was standing on the Curry line, he instantly went weak. And when we cured that line, he no longer went weak. So it's really instant. And that again just shows you how valuable it is to find out where you might have these destructive lines on your property. And it's really not that they were intended to be destructive. It's more that we made them destructive by building these big electrical power stations or with all the traumas that happen. And I believe that that trauma stays there until we have blessed it, cured it in one manner or another. And if you just imagine about the tens or hundreds of thousands of years that this planet has been around, you can imagine there's so many possibilities for traumas to exist all around us. And I don't think I've ever walked on a property that did not have a destructive line on it. And it's easy to fix. Anybody can do it. There's nothing special about me. I do love how applied kinesiology can prove it, because people say, well, I've been walking this path all the time, all of my life, and it never hurt me any. But when you show them that when they stand on this precise line and their body instantly goes weak, it's quite impressive. And people have a hard time then arguing what the dowsing rods have showed them.
Okay. Do you use the applied kinesiology? Oh, I can say that. Chart, do you find different stresses or dysfunctions? Is there a chart that you use?
There is not a chart. You can use it with any chart. So if you were to use one of the dowsing charts, and if you were doing the planetary energy charts, you would ask, your question is going to be so very basic. You would simply state Pluto. And if the body goes weak when you state Pluto, it means that there is just a disruption in that particular energy. And that would then be an energy that you would want to fix. If the body remains strong when you mentioned Pluto, then you're strong in that energy and you don't need to worry about it. So you can use it for all of those charts. And that's really exciting. I've never thought about doing that. And I'm going to start.
Okay. Do you have in the book that you've written, do you have descriptions of the different kinds of ley lines?
I wrote that at least 10 years ago, and I could not find a lot of information about any of the lines.
Okay.
There, I think what I said in the video is all I know.
Okay. So so when you're talking about you were working on a Curie line, what were the other lines you were working with?
Curie lines and Hartmann lines circumnavigate the Earth, and that's what they're supposed to do. The problem becomes when when their trauma happened on that line, or like I said, electrical stations. The brown lines and black lines, so Curie lines and pole lines, Hartmann lines are all very close to the ground. Mm-hmm. The black lines and brown lines are very unpredictable. They don't follow a straight line like the other ones. They don't hang out close to the Earth like the other ones. So they can be really challenging to locate. They can also be really challenging to cure in the traditional method of copper or crystals, but blessings often still works. Applied kinesiology, again, shows you the power of a simple blessing. So how cool is that? And ley lines. Yeah. So ley lines, in my understanding, are pathways that have been created by a living being. That being could be an animal or people. And often they go one direction and one direction only. So for me, when the dowsing rods open, I know I found one of the Hartmann, Curie, or pole. When the dowsing rods both go one direction, I know I found a ley line. It's very fascinating to ask questions about that ley line because there's such a huge amount of history in our planet, and what created that line can get quite interesting. And I don't want to go any farther than that.
No, that's fine. I have a question. What types of changes have you seen in people's lives after you've done the work? So you've gone in there, you found something that has trauma or whatever, and you've cleared it out. What kind of results have you been able to see as afterwards?
The most common and the easiest to see and feel is simply greater peace. There have been bigger things. I heard of a street in Kansas City where many of the residents came down with one particular cancer. And that, I believe, is typical of an overexcited line. Pole lines are specifically known to carry lung cancer. The Hartmann and Curie, I don't know of a specific cancer, but yeah, the healing of cancer is a pretty big deal. And to be able to fix it so easily, we always make things too difficult in our society. You know, if we just do the very basics like a blessing, the results are pretty huge. But peace, a greater sense of peace, less confrontations in the family. That's very typical.
This is very fascinating to me. There's, let's say that you're familiar with an area that has a relatively clean line on it, and some new construction happens on that line. So someone builds a house or a factory or a power station or something like that. Would that cause trauma to the line, just that act of breaking the soil or breaking the line, breaking all that?
I haven't asked that question. Of course, if it's sacred land, and there's got to be a certain sacredness to all of the land, I think that could easily cause a trauma. But I think that trauma can easily be fixed also. Many people today, when they go into that brand new house, that new construction, they bless their home. And by blessing their home, it is possible that they cure that trauma that happened on that line. That's a great question. I never thought about that.
Cool.
Ultimately, we need a lot more blessing going on.
Susan had another question. Does the magnet also heal the body?
Magnets are used to heal the body. They clear So Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson writes a lot about using magnets to clear. Donna Eden also uses magnets to clear. They clear the energy field. So when we have experienced a trauma, there's something in that trauma that becomes magnetized to our energy field. So a magnet then is going to demagnetize that trauma. It's a lot more complicated than that because we have to be willing to let go of that trauma, and many of us get quite accustomed and used to those traumas, so it can be really hard to let go. But yes, magnets are definitely used to heal, and many people have written about that.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So we all hear about beneficial energy, non-beneficial energy lines. How about beneficial energy lines or zones?
I think that all of them can become beneficial, and that's why Hartmann lines and Curry lines circumnavigate the Earth. They're intended to be beneficial. All of them are intended to be beneficial. We create the problem.
I see. All right. So Kyle says that he's read that megalith structures and cathedrals are built on ley lines in order to magnify the effects of the line using sacred geometry.
Yes, I've read that also. So ley lines are really nothing new, are they? And all of these different lines, we've known about them for, well, we know at least 1,500 years. Back the Ireland is known for some, if you put a 5-pointed star above Norway, and the Irish are the ones who did this, but if you put a 5-pointed star above Norway, you will find a church or monastery at the tip of each of those 5 points. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been doing this for a long time. Sacred geometry, megaliths have traditionally taken advantage of these very powerful and beneficial lines. And I think the Earth has really benefited from that, and we need to get back into that.
Have you heard of the Temple of Humanity up in northern Italy with Dominer?
Yeah. Very.
That's one place I definitely want to visit. Because
right.
they built the temple into the bedrock so that way it would be located at the conjunction of a couple of ley lines to really magnify the work that they do there.
Yeah, we all need to do that. Even in our little homes, in the little place we call ours, there's big things we can do there to help the whole planet and all of its residents.
Yeah. I actually got started doing dowsing because the home that I used to live in New Jersey was actually located on the conjunction of a couple of ley lines, and the house was just terribly haunted. And the attitude at the time was, when we brought the ghost hunters in, was, "Oh, cool, you live in a haunted house." And our response was, "Well, can you get rid of them, please?" Because it was making our lives horrible. And so I learned how to douse so that way we can clear the house and keep it clear. But as soon as we moved out, the place just went to heck in a handbasket again.
That's too bad. Yeah, we need to be taking care of those places like that. I found houses that had as many as 1,600 disembodied souls, and they were all just wanting to know what to do. I mean, they weren't malevolent. They just didn't know where they were supposed to be. They just didn't know how to get there.
And the fascinating thing is, we were doing renovations on the house, and every time we opened up a wall, we would find holy objects embedded in the walls, crosses, prayer cards, whatever. Wow. And so the prior owners were putting these things in there because they were having problems.
Yeah, that makes me wonder how long it has been there,
Yeah.
100 years, thousands of years.
Yeah. Well, the house itself was built in the 50s, so.
Yeah, but it sounds to me like it goes back much farther than that.
Much further than that, yeah.
Yeah. I think we would just be boggled by the things that took place on this planet 200,000 years ago, for instance.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any more questions for Chris?
Well, I'd really like to hear about experiments that other people have done.
Mm-hmm.
The ley lines and geopathic stress lines are what I've kind of focused on, but there's so many more directions that someone could go.
I used to do house clearings. I don't do those so much anymore, but when I would do a house clearing, I'd actually go to the house and find the lines. And if they were going through the house, I'd push them a few yards away from the house. So that way they were flowing not into the house, but around the house. Have you ever heard of doing that?
No, I haven't. So do you know what kind of lines you were able to?
I was never not that detailed.
Uh-huh. No, that's very interesting. My understanding is that you can't move a Hartman line or a Curry line. They're supposed to be there. They're always straight.
Yeah, I would just push them with intention, and I would just get an affirmative or a negative that it was done. I mean, I wouldn't move it so that it would break it. I would just kind of bend it.
Well, I know you can do that with water, so I certainly you ought to be able to do it with lines too. I would really like to see more peace throughout the world, and therefore I would like to see all of the lines cured by blessing.
Right.
Because when I just do where it enters the property and where it exits the property, I feel sorry for the neighbors on each side, right?
Yeah.
So
at the time, I didn't know. At the time, it was years ago. So this was I didn't quite know what I was doing back then.
Well, there's still so much to learn. I know.
Yes.
If we say we're an expert, we're just letting our ego show.
Right. Robert has a question.
How would you push them?
Yeah. How would I push them? I would go around with my pendulum, and then that's when I would find them, and then I would ask spirit and any beneficial energies here to ask if it was okay if it was moved 5 feet to one side, and if I got an affirmative, then that's how it would be. But if I got a minus, or where it wasn't possible to move it, then I would then ask that only beneficial entities show up, that we bless it, and then we make it stronger in that area. Tick says, I usually ask that the energy line get changed to be neutral or beneficial for its entire length. Yeah. Okay, so Robert has a question, so I'm going to unmute him. Well,
I think it's unmuted, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Ley lines have existed through even the Chinese emperors knew all about ley lines. Most ley lines, and I haven't come across any negative ones, in spite of people saying that there are black lines, I don't believe it. Ley lines are very positive, and for an example, the one that comes down through Philadelphia goes through City Hall. There's one on North and South Broad Street and Market Street, and there's a conjunction right in the center of City Hall. And if you go to that, you'll see a compass decoration right in the center of the patio at City Hall. It's not just that a ley line is a triple-haired ley line. The effect of energy. If you take a pendulum and walk out and say, show me the end of the limits of the energy, start walking away, you'll find it may go out to about 50 paces on either side. So the energy from that is perhaps about 100 yards. And that's the general sort of feeling of most ley lines, anywhere between 20 and 50 yards in either direction. And it's beneficial energy. It's good energy, and you talk to the ladies in the office who work within about 30 feet of the thing, that it's a good place to be. It's the office is always feeling good, the staff in the office. So ley lines are good to have, and if you can live on one, or there is a ley line that goes all the way down from Prince Edward Island up in Canada, right the way down to Alabama, and it goes through all the key places. We call it the East Coast Ley. It goes through Boston, it goes through Trenton, it goes through Washington, D.C., and the number of universities built along it, the number of cathedrals built along it is very significant, because it means that people, spiritual people and administrative people, knew all about this in days gone by. William Penn, you must have used Dowsing when he figured out the place to put City Hall in Philadelphia. Why he wasn't branded as a dowser, because the witch trials were going on in Pennsylvania at the same time, and he really didn't want to test himself, I guess. But Washington, D.C. was built on ley lines. There were ley lines many places. The pyramids, if you want another one, Jerusalem, Damascus, they're all built on ley lines. There are 4 ley lines boxing Princeton University. The more you study ley lines, the more you'll see that there's beneficial energy, and humanity has actually got onto them, and it's only the ignorant who don't even know about them, or people who haven't seen them or talked about them can't benefit. But there are people benefiting from ley lines all the time. Yeah, it's a great thing to get involved in if you're a healer, you know, and things like that. And you can benefit from natural healing.
I don't disbelieve anything that you said. I have found lines where I used the word ley line, but maybe it was simply my lack of knowledge. But the lines were very heavy, a lot of sadness. And so maybe like I said, maybe I simply used the wrong word, and the dowsing rods responded to the best word that I had in my vocabulary for the line. But yeah, I have found lines which at the time I called ley line, that were very heavy, very, sad, manipulative kind of energy. And again, I know there's many lines that I simply don't know the names of. I don't know what to call it. So I think that it probably simply responded to the best word in my vocabulary. I don't doubt that ley lines have very beneficial energies along them.
Yes,
and building a church on the line really does help.
Yeah, and Susan commented here, it is ley lines are defined differently by different traditions as well. So that's something else to keep in mind. A ley line to somebody is not the same thing as to somebody else.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was saying. It's just terminology, vocabulary.
Because that's all we got.
You're right. Yeah. Any questions about applied kinesiology? I'd really like to see people using that, and using that to help the non-believers see the endless possibilities. No questions? I'm sure I didn't explain it that well, that there's no questions.
Well, I think it's more along the lines that most people probably use it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I use it in my practice, so.
Well, that's fantastic. You know, things change so much in just 10 years. So. Yeah.
As Susan says, she uses applied kinesiology with her clients before and after client visits. So it's a really handy tool to gauge the effectiveness of whatever clearing that you're doing, or whatever you're actually focused on.
Well, that's wonderful. I had no idea that it was. I spent most of my career in Missouri, and I love the state, but there were a lot of people that this would be considered, again, black magic, or,
Yeah.
if they don't understand it, then it's evil and stay away from it kind of thing. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did ask a question. Sheila's asking if we asked a question about whether he uses a body chart, and you did answer that question.
Yeah, when stating the question for using a body chart, you simply state the word that's listed in that body chart.
Yeah.
So I use the example Pluto. If the body goes weak, then there's something that disrupts the energy regarding the Pluto energies. If the body stays strong, then that's planetary energy is not an issue. Mm-hmm. I do not go into the questions. I don't ask, is this energy good for me, or anything like that. If you simply state the word, that is all that's required. When you start asking questions, it can become so convoluted that the energy body doesn't understand it.
Mm-hmm. Susan also mentioned here that you can have the client hold a heavy weight so they can feel it for themselves too. And just to piggyback on that, when I like to, my wife and I work out together, and when we're doing weight training, I've noticed that some days the weights feel like nothing. I'm doing the exercise, and then other days I'm trying to doing a push up or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't move this thing at all. And it's, this is only 15 pounds. I can usually do this pretty easily. And that's usually an indication that, something's up.
Yeah. So then you have to try to figure out what that something is. Huh?
Yep.
Yeah. I do that when testing myself for foods. Like chocolate. Well, I had a hard time testing myself for chocolate, because every test I did, I tested positive. Chocolate, of course, is good for me. But with that test, the weight test, it's a lot harder to lie.
Yeah.
So I've discovered that milk chocolate is not good for me. However, dark chocolate is. So it did become an advantage to finding out and being willing to try the weight test, because that's really hard to cheat.
And also you have to understand that's going to change from day to day too.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Does everyone understand that weight test? Like, you simply ask your body is, here's a good one, Coca-Cola. Ask your body how it feels about Coca-Cola, and you lift that heavy weight. And if it's easy, then that Coca-Cola happens to be good for you. But if it's hard, then stay away from it. The harder it is to pick up that weight, the more important it is you stay away from the object you're asking about. And that's a very good one. A lot of people like the sway test. The sway test, yeah, it's just too easy for me to cheat. But that weight test, boy, I just can't cheat on that one.
Yeah. And sometimes you can do a yes, no with your fingers as well.
Right, yes. Yeah.
But again, this one's also an easy one to cheat on.
Yeah. And when it comes to something that we really like, it's so easy to cheat without us knowing it. So then we have to come up with that manner that we can't cheat on. So applied kinesiology is really hard to cheat on, because I can lie to myself pretty easily, apparently, but I can't really lie to the person who is testing me. So I have somebody test me and discover the truth, which I may have been hiding from myself.
We're very good at lying to ourselves.
We are. I had no idea until I learned this stuff. I thought people lied to others easier than they lied to themselves, but I think that's not true at all.
I think that's actually, I don't think that's true, because if you're sensitive enough, you can tell when somebody's lying to you. But if you're lying to yourself, then you're without a clue.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
All righty. If there are no other questions, then I guess we can close this up.
Okay, White Eagle, ask a question.
Okay. Actually, I was just interested in the ley lines, and sometimes when doing properties, I am called upon to work with a property and a spirit. And many times it's needing to, the property the spirit is left, and the spirit must be called back because it's been insulted.
Yes.
And so we spend time with the developers sitting on the ground drumming, and then we call back the spirit to
land.
And we ask forgiveness for if we have offended the spirit by thought, by word, or by deed. And so I was doing a new area of houses that had all been built new but weren't selling. And they were like $1 million, $2 million homes. And they were anxious to sell them. But what I found was when I was checking for ley lines and different energies, I found that they all had the same problem. There was a common denominator, and it was in the kitchen of every new home. And when I went into the kitchen, I was taken by my teacher to the counter. And I put my hand on the counter, and my heart broke because I felt such shame and pain. And upon doing further research, I learned that those people that were selling those counters and the granite counters, they had been stolen from the pioneer cemeteries and ground up and were being sold. And so if you see cemeteries where the tombstones are disappearing, they're being taken and crunched down into granite for countertops that they sell for $5,000 and $6,000, $8,000.
Even in our area.
In our area as well. But it happens all over.
Wow.
So the thing was, it wasn't the ley lines, it was the actual act that had happened. And once we released all of those memories and hurts and asked forgiveness, all of the houses sold within a month.
Wow.
So it's very interesting how, sometimes things are brought to the property and it is, sometimes it has nothing to do with the ley lines but we have to find that out, of course.
Do you remember when we were driving? We were driving through our small town. There's a couple of towns. And I have always been interested in tombstones. And we were going by and I noticed like there's this obelisk. And I said to Doug, I said, where did it go to? It was there. And that's what made me think something is happening here. And anyway, we went, I guess, a couple of months, and I noticed another one had disappeared. So we phoned up our Ron,
the Historic Society, and the police.
And we said, we need somebody to keep an eye on this cemetery because, the gravestones, they are disappearing.
Especially the ones that are marble and they're
really good.
They're very high in quality.
And I mean, to have something like that happen, how many people are paying attention as they're driving by? Not probably too many, but I just noticed that it gone. And I said, Doug, maybe they're moving.
Yeah.
Maybe they're moving the tombstones because they have done that in one of the small towns up near us. But anyway, yes, that's just something that, that happened in our near our town.
Yeah, you may want to check. You may want to check your own comfort.
Right.
I know. Right. Just make sure it's not. But this was it was pretty. It was devastating, really.
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
And thank you for
the
very
wonderful
much. Presentation. We really enjoyed it.
I'd really enjoy hearing other stories like that.
Yes.
Thank you. And to my friend over there, look at you. You guys look great.
Yes.
Robert. And, you know, thank you for sharing about
Yes.
the ley lines. It's so important and beautiful.
And we have so much to learn, and you know, we're so thankful, you know, for the society, because we go back to Danville, way back when it first started, and you know, I just think, I was saying, will we have virtual next year, or will we be actually in person? I mean, will we be in a place? It's hard to say, but we go with the flow.
Yeah.
What we say, we go with where the car goes now.
You know, and thank you again, Robert.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
for you, Chris.
And Dr. Calvin, get ready for the ceremony.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
Yes,
Closing.
wonderful.
To do our closing.
Yes.
So Miigwech,
Miigwech.
we'll say goodbye.
Miigwech. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Bye-bye.